What if English football decided that you were only allowed one club per city? That's the database I've set up, and that's the experiment we're running here today and over the next couple of videos, as I have removed every spare football club, very callous way of putting it, for supporters of those clubs, and there are going to be some upset people because of this. Well aware of that. Manchester, Liverpool and London, of course, the big three in this situation, London most of all, have all had their secondary clubs eliminated from the structure, along with all the other towns and cities that happen to have more than one. Here at the Premier League, you can see the new version of the Premier League as a result of this elimination game. There are teams that have been renamed as such accordingly, just so we've got just Manchester, just Birmingham with the Aston Villa badge on that point as well, London with the Arsenal badge. I have merged all the clubs into their highest reputation club, which at the moment is Arsenal for London. But yes, I know it will hurt, especially for Aston Villa fans, to be referred to as Birmingham for the rest of this. But that's the way it goes here. It's also so I remember who's who easily, and so I don't have to keep switching between graphics packs. Yes, so there is a little bit of laziness in there, I am aware, but it's also convenient aesthetically for recognition purposes if I don't put custom badges in. I know who's who. So teams like Fulham, Crystal Palace, Everton have all been removed from the Premier League as well, along with obviously the more high-profile Chelsea, Spurs, what have you, which means there is now effectively a big three of London, Liverpool, Manchester. Birmingham, of course, with Aston Villa's recent progress, are up there, along with Newcastle. So we'll see if a new top whatever forms as a result of this. And similarly, the eliminations don't stop at the Premier League. Further down, you've got Millwall, QPR, Charlton, Bristol Rovers, Sheffield Wednesday, Notts County, etc., etc. Any place that had more than one club, one of them's gone minimum. Even for a place like Leeds, where Farsley and Garsley in non-league football, they've gone too. Which sees teams, again, based on reputation in Football Manager alone, be promoted up the table. So you've got teams like Lincoln, Portsmouth, Peterborough, Oxford, all in the Championship as things stand. Wrexham, because of their reputation in Football Manager, goes straight to the Championship. League One is primarily League Two people moving up, and League Two sees teams like York, Torquay, Scunthorpe go back into League Two as a result of this, having fallen to Tier 6 in real life, but their reputation holds in Football Manager to get them straight into League Two. We'll see how they fare. And the National League still continue. It's weird seeing Wrexham as the National League winners in the Championship, but Vanarama sees a lot of North and South teams get promoted into it, and then the North and South similarly sees teams from below Tier 6, some of them often quite below Tier 6, make their way into North and South, just because there's a lot of duplicate teams on the fringes of the National League North and South that also had to be eliminated from this experiment. I've tried my best to eliminate the ones that are even below this, just to make sure they don't accidentally come up and start interfering with the experiment. Some may have slipped through the cracks. You know, it's very difficult to catch all the London teams in particular, of course. But I have tried my best to eliminate even the ones that might even get in here. Now, in terms of the clubs that have been eliminated, like Chelsea, I have given them a tiny stadium just so they don't get funds for whatever games they do play, but they are stuck on permanently amateur. All of their players have been removed. Ignore the key personnel over there. That's a layover. All of their players have been removed, along with staff. As for these squads, it's obviously London that has it worst of all at this point in time, because I have given them all of the players from all of the London clubs above a certain threshold, basically using a minimum current ability and or potential ability to siphon off any extraneous ones. But London does see a lot of Chelsea and Spurs players in particular filter into this originally Arsenal squad, but then it returns as a goalkeeper. But thankfully the game does adapt their wage bill accordingly. AI over time, I suspect, will slowly filter it back down again, but also, just a fun note here, as a result of this, Raheem Sterling has played for all three of the now big three, having played for Liverpool, Manchester, and now London. But one fun part of this is just seeing how London eliminates their own squad players over time and sells them on, because there's a lot of them. But yeah, if they've got good potential ability or good current ability, they have stayed here. Everyone else got released. So players like, for instance, Paquetá and Bowen from West Ham do make their way over, but the rest of that squad was released, for instance. And similarly, unders players like David Washington, Udogie, Hickey, might be Arsenal anyway, actually, Colwell, Cole Palmer, Madueke, Lavia, all those players have entered their squads as well. Like I say, good potential ability, saw them make the cut. But also, because I had to cut existing Arsenal players out, under a certain threshold, some of their players have entered the free agent list too. So we'll see how they get picked up over the course of time. Most of the Manchester United squads got released, depressingly for them, obviously, basically all of Everton's squad got released because they weren't good enough to join Liverpool's. So there's a lot of free agents at reasonable Premier League level quality out there. Now, this is an England-only experiment. If you're interested in seeing me try and do this across Europe, then I'll have a go at it. But this is an England-only experiment. And I believe that kind of covers all the major points in regards to what's changed. So we shall go forward 1 year in this and also 3 years, but we'll go 1 year first just to see how the first season goes in this new world. And then subsequent videos will go further into the future. So here we are at the end of year 1, and despite the fact that London has the combined forces of at least 3 of the traditional big 6, still can't beat Manchester, effectively City. Unsurprisingly, Liverpool 3rd, Newcastle 4th, Birmingham 5th. Yeah, I saw that one coming really. Surprisingly, Leicester, having been re-promoted due to filling in some gaps in the Premier League, 6th. Brighton 7th, Wolves 8th. Obviously they did well enough in Europe to get 8 places next year. Norwich, creditable, 12th, ahead of actual Premier League side Sheffield and Nottingham. Obviously, Sheffield and Nottingham don't really gain any players from their lesser cousins at the stage, but Norwich and Leicester in particular, of course, but Norwich and Leicester, very good going to beat already Premier League teams, particularly Nottingham, having been there a couple of years as things stand. Now, fortunately, Leeds down again, Middlesbrough and Blackburn bottom of all. Quite competitive, actually, it's got to be said, in terms of relegation. Luton Town 40 points in 11th. Relegation was 33, just 7 points further back. So quite competitive, actually, by doing this at the bottom end. Top end, however, yes, Manchester 104, London 94, Liverpool 89, and then there's a 13-point gap to Newcastle. It's quite a gap, let's be honest, and even the gap between Birmingham and Leicester is 8 points. Not an insignificant gap. The gap between Birmingham and Leicester is bigger than the gap between 11th and 18th. So, yeah, there might be a new Big Five, effectively, here. We'll have a quick scout of the divisions lower down. Bruno Fernandes, actually, just before we go there, playing for just Manchester, 21 assists. That'll never not be weird. Also, I can see Eddie Nketiah at Birmingham, second highest goal scorer, on loan. Only played 26 games and scored 19 goals. Sorry, actually, before we go any further, what happened to Watkins? Started 8 games, got substituted on for 22. Why was Ollie Watkins the sub? Eddie Nketiah was loaned in, clearly for the whole season, and started 40 games. Well, I was going to go through all the leagues, but now we've started delving into squads already. We'll continue that and have a look at what happened with the London squad, realistically. Ivan Toney, of course, inherited from Brentford. Effectively, who actually sticks around is the main thing. Who played the most games? In fact, we might sort it by minutes. Existing Arsenal players. Saliba, Ramsdale, Saka, Rice, Zinchenko even, Odegaard, Gabriel Jesus, all faring quite well. Heung-min Song, surprisingly, mind you, that might be a big injury, I don't know. Low down. Enzo Fernandez did okay there. Christian Romero from Spurs, and Caicedo at Chelsea, along with Raheem Sterling, the biggest interlopers. So there's a lot of players who got like fringe player situations here. Mudryk, Elise, Broja, Gallagher, Madueke, Cole Palmer, Richarlison and Kunku does surprise me actually a little bit. Guehi, Chilwell. Again, actually a left back. Chilwell being the fringest of fringes does surprise me. James Maddison a little bit, maybe, I don't know. Certainly shunts players like Gabriel Martinelli and just Gabriel down the order. Who did they actually get rid of, though, is what I'm interested in. Balogun, Dizazi, Trossard, Xhaka is obviously already one. Smith Rowe was loaned out, Cucurella was loaned out. Kyrgios was loaned out to Barcelona. As I said before, Manchester don't really inherit that many Manchester United players. Bruno Fernandes established himself in the squad, and that is basically it. Luke Shaw played several minutes, but not first team. Mount, actually surprisingly the next highest. And Arnold played cup games probably. The fact that Mount played more minutes than Marcus Rashford does surprise me. And realistically, Liverpool is just Liverpool. Jordan Pickford playing cup games. Although they appear to have acquired Aaron Wan-Bissaka separately. I didn't give them Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Dominic Calvert-Lewin made 7 substitute appearances. I thought he might make a few more. I thought just striker, he might make a few more than that, but okay. I didn't think Liverpool's pure striker situation was that strong that he wouldn't get in, because it was really only just Nunez and that's it. The rest are kind of wingers, or at least could be forced into wingers. I'm curious by Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So Aaron Wan-Bissaka was one of the players that was made a free agent as a result of this, and Liverpool went, yeah, you'll do as a backup to Trent, which actually solid idea. So I'm just trying to run down the list of free agents to see who went where. Jesse Lingard, obviously a free agent anyway, went to Middlesbrough. Nathan Collins released from Brentford, went to Luton. Ben Johnson released from West Ham, went to Middlesbrough. Check the Corey and Harry Maguire went to Newcastle. Rico Henry went to Southampton. Saw that one as well there. Ashley Long to Norwich. Idrissa Gueye to Newcastle as well. Kenny Tete to Southampton. Højbjerg to Wolves. Jed Spence to Brighton. Harrison Reed to Luton. Adama Traore went back to Wolves. Gio, along with Lo Celso, went there. Ings and Ayew to Burnley. Ben Mee to Burnley, back to Burnley. James Tarkowski opted not to do that and went to Luton Town instead. Sure. Sessegnon went to Brighton. And in terms of sales, Rafael Varane to Al Ittihad for big money. Kind of more looking at the... Manchester City still bought Victor Nelson off Galatasaray. And Konate went to Newcastle. Like, really, Barchi's gone to Newcastle as well. Like, there's normal transfers happening here. Which admittedly, like, to Newcastle's fair enough, or to Brighton is fair enough. But I was expecting a little bit more offloading from London and Manchester in particular. Ortega was sold by Manchester, because they've got Onana as a backup now. Elneny went to Roma. Might have done in real life. I don't know. We'll probably see a lot more of that later on. Okay, so now actually going through the lower leagues. Hull, Plymouth and Ipswich are the ones that make their way out of the New Look Championship. Portsmouth, I know there's Pompey fans in my mutuals, didn't even survive this championship. Preston, who are already championship, went down, and Burton Albion, kind of more convincingly so. Wrexham survived, despite being put in a league too higher than they're already in. Bristol City being behind teams that were put into this league, like Wycombe and Lincoln and Wigan and Derby, is depressing for them. Bolton 10th, good showing from them. Reading back in this, of course. Up in 9th, again, good showing from them. But yeah, Hull, Plymouth and Ipswich, the ones to capitalise on this and get promoted. Hull back in the Premier League after a long while, Ipswich back in the top flight after a long while, and Plymouth, no idea how long it's been for them, if they have at all. So, well done. So in League 1, Bradford, I like that. Fleetwood and Stockport County, surprisingly, actually make the best of their situation here in League 1 and get promoted to the Championship. Great for Stockport there in particular, but Bradford making their way back up the leagues, as I kind of hoped they would in this version. Northampton and Crewe, 23rd and 24th, were teams that were promoted from League 2 last year in real life into League 1 in real life and have been relegated anyway. Despite the fact there are a whole bunch more League 2 teams here to compete against, they've still gone down, again, immediately. Gillingham recently promoted, and Accrington Stanley were relegated from this division last year in real life into League 2, were put back in here by me to fill the gap and have been relegated again anyway. That's particularly bad from Accrington Stanley. Colchester York, great from York. Gateshead and Harrogate Town from 7th, impressive. Get their promotions. Scunthorpe still go down. To be fair, Scunthorpe were just broken as a club. I'm not surprised by that. They have been promoted 2 divisions as a result of this experiment and have been relegated immediately along with Maidenhead. South Shields and Bath City become league teams. Darlington, Weymouth, Slough Town and Dover. Again, Slough being relegated. I know there's mutuals involved with Slough, so sorry, I have no control over this. Radcliffe and Banbury United become Vanarama. Kettering, Bury, poor old Bury, Cirencester and Hitchin go down. Macclesfield did alright. And Farnborough and Hemel Hempstead get promoted. Nice to actually see the top 2 get promoted. It's always such a daft thing, that the promotion structure in here. 2 deserving teams get promoted. Hungerford, Frome, Canvey Island and Grays. Canvey Island is Concord Rangers, by the way, just because they have 2 teams weirdly that far down. Grays Athletic definitely didn't have a team to survive even this level, apparently. So going 3 full seasons now through this, Manchester won the first one we saw, the Liverpool, and then London have won them. So the new big 3 have just traded blows here. Doesn't look like Plymouth's reign lasted too long in the Premier League, but looks like Hull survived though. Middlesbrough, Coventry and West Brom, the teams that are going down. So Coventry and West Brom clearly promoted and then relegated again. Leicester's time in the top section has ended clearly as well, down in 13th, but they're still around. Brighton and Southampton actually up in 6th now. Birmingham, Newcastle remain 4th and 5th, and then the top 3 remain the top 3 with a golf. Okay, I can see the way that one's going. Of course, London's team should be looking a lot more lean these days. Ramsdale, Saliba, Romero remains a fixture. Martinelli now actually getting solid minutes. Odegaard, Declan Rice, Reece James at right back. Gabriel Jesus, Saka, Zinchenko, surprisingly the first choice left back still, with Moises Caicedo rounding out their traditional first 11 by the looks of things. João Palhinha still getting solid minutes. Enzo Fernandez too. Kulusevski. And Kunku still there getting like fringe minutes for some reason. Same with Havertz. And a lot of the youth prospects still kicking around. Maybe have already returned from loan, some of these lot, so I can't really say for certain. But, you know, players like Jay Stansfield still kicking around. And Brennan Johnson, for that matter, who played 14 minutes for London this year. 14 minutes. A lot of them are listed though. Unsurprisingly, they made no transfers in. Raheem Sterling was sold, which is probably why Martinelli got that amount of minutes. Tony, Badiashile, Fabio Vieira, Kudus, Guehi, Porro, Bowen, Smith Rowe, Chalobah, Jamie Donnelly too for reasonable money, Petrovic, all sold. Whole bunch more loaned out. And previous year saw Heung-min Son be sold for huge money. They made one signing. Reece Nelson for huge money too, bizarrely. Lukaku, Angelo, Partey, Lewis Hall. Obviously, that might be mandatory for Newcastle. Maddison, Skip, Broja, Kivior, Vicario, Mbeumo. I actually thought Vicario might end up the backup goalkeeper, but Mbeumo, Nketiah, Gallagher, Kevin Schade, Martin, Sanchez, Cucurella was sold for £0 with 1.5 in the future. And a bunch of probably youth prospects there too as well. Thiago Silva went on a free. But, so a bunch of sales and only spending $4 million in 2 years. So they're making obviously a lot of money whilst not actually spending any at this stage. Probably why they've actually fared so well now, because they've got their wage bill under control. Similarly, Bruno Fernandes remains in control here, but they had less interlopers, so they're probably signing more players. I can see Simicans joined the party. Luke Shaw still happy getting rotation, as is Mason Mount, as is Marcus Rashford, actually. He's still there, along with Onana. Casemiro, still there at the ball. Does surprise me, a few of them that are stuck around there. John Stones, that might be partially why. Ake as well, 2 centre-backs have gone. Malacia's gone too, along with Ericsson this year, but as I say, less interlopers means there's obviously less for them to sell, so they've got to buy more players, as Zaniolo from Galatasaray. No, I genuinely didn't realise the Birmingham transfer wasn't permanent. And that was actually the season before. The most recent season, a little less prolific. Cancelo, Phillips finally going. Jadon Sancho went to Liverpool, weirdly. Dalot, Kovacic, all gone out. And then there's Gnabry and Rodrigo for huge money in. Good lord. And just seeing if any of the few Everton players have been sold on. James Garner and Calvert-Lewin have gone as well. But Liverpool actually still surprisingly stingy on the inbounds too. Obviously, tracking the free agents at this stage is going to be a while. Most of them probably got snapped up in year one. But just checking the other leagues before we round things off here. I can see Loris Karius is playing for Ipswich. That's fun. Bolton being promoted to the Premier League again. Love to see that. Sunderland, Ty Weir is back. Stoke back up as well. Obviously, Ipswich got relegated clearly as well. Stockport being relegated now, so they must have survived a season. Portsmouth got promoted again and then relegated again. Oh dear, Portsmouth. Pompey, you're having a time here between League One and the Championship. Wigan relegated too. Oh god, the 2 former financial collapses going back down again. Bradford survived though. That was nearly 3 from 3 though. Yeah, Plymouth clearly went back down and had a more stable mid-table finish this time. I don't see Lincoln. That's because they got relegated and goes straight back up again. Cambridge in second. They're going up. Tranmere 2. They're in alright. Northampton again. Burton again. And Swindon all down. Gillingham got re-promoted and stayed up this time. Wrexham were relegated. York City clearly went down again, but are promoted as convincing champions. Barrow, Chesterfield and Fylde joining them. Yeovil Town and Farnborough, who made their way up to League 2, relegated. Remember, they were promoted from Tier 6 in Year 1, so they had back-to-back promotions. South Shield survived, clearly, as did Bath, actually, from Year 1. Dorking and Earlsfleet up this particular time. Scunthorpe have stayed in Tier 5. Leamington, Morpeth, Buxton and Biggleswade clearly got Tier 6, some of them. I'm trying to see any interlopers and any accidents. I should just clarify, actually, I never mentioned it. London teams were removed on the basis of what got included inside the dotted line if you type in Greater London into Google Maps. So Dartford is outside of that, and anything inside the M60, is it? Around Manchester, anything on the inside of that got removed. Bognor Rangers up, or Canvey Island having a fun time, being Tier 6, not Tier 6, being Tier 6, not Tier 6. But I don't really see any accidental interlopers, which is good, and I definitely don't see any of the removed teams finding their way back up again. So they obviously are not capable of doing that, which is good. We should check the Champions League winners. There was 2 All-England finals, one of them in England as well. London beat Manchester and then Liverpool beat London, only for then PSG to beat Liverpool. So expect PSG to be the runner-up next year then. We should also check one thing, because I've done this experiment before a few years ago. I don't remove the teams that get destroyed from European competitions, and one of them is in the Champions League. So we'll just check Manchester United. There we are, Group B. Minus 36 because they don't have players. Barcelona scored a net 14 goals, as did Salzburg. And Union Berlin surprisingly only scored 8 goals against Manchester United. But they were their only victories. 5-0 and 3-0. Bear in mind they're like Tier 7 with fill-in grey players, by the way. Barcelona beat them 10-0 and 4-0 away. Red Bull Salzburg did better than Barcelona in that regard because it was 11-0 at home. Newcastle top of their group. What I have given for that group in real life. Similarly, there might be teams in the Europa League West Ham, -25. But the Europa League was won by Liverpool, the one English team that wasn't in the Champions League final that year. Dortmund and then Napoli against Atletico. So no English teams in that one. Valencia beat Braga, Betis beat Monaco, and Birmingham beat Osasuna. I mean, I'm actually kind of expecting Aston Villa to win that in real life because, it's Emery. Spurs should be in this, I think. I love, by the way, even these destroyed teams, because they've been put in like Tier 8 and Tier 7, for instance, as amateur clubs, they still play in the FA Cup qualifying round and just get beaten every time by Walton and Hersham, for instance. So next time out, we'll go to the end of the 5th season and the end of the 10th season to see if this new Big 3 is broken up, because that's really the crux of this experiment. The former Big 6 becoming a Big 3 does allow, obviously, more teams to enter Europe for starters, and if they can make a charge on that Big 3. So with that in mind, that'll be the focus really going forward. Obviously, the further we go into the future, the less of the what are the teams looking like we need to actually focus on, and just more of the general makeup of this universe. The shift moves towards that. But for now, there's still quite a lot of players surprisingly still kicking around the London squad that I wasn't expecting. So we'll see how long it takes for them to finally filter out as well. But that's it from this video. If you enjoyed this one, do like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. Bye now. I know it's been a while. I appreciate the patience. Life happened. Won't be quite so long until the next video. I'll see you then. Ta-ra.